Joining me is Webster University Assistant Professor Ralph Schoellhammer. Ralph, thank you for joining us. Donald Trump says if he loses, he will donate $1 million to a charity of Joe Biden's choice. Now, I'm not so sure Joe Biden would even be able to stand up long enough to make it to the first hole. So I don't know about you, but I would pay money to watch the president try and swing a golf club.
Well, thanks, Danica. It's great to be on with you. Well, I guess I would pay money too, but I remember, I think last summer we all saw Joe Biden trying to ride a bike, and that didn't go particularly well. So at some point, this is just elder abuse. So it's some fun trolling by Donald Trump. But if you look at the condition Joe Biden is in, right, if stairs are your mortal enemy and bikes as well, maybe golf is no longer really your sport.
No, I think you've absolutely raised a good point there, definitely, Ralph. Now, look, let's talk about the situation in France where, of course, riots and violence have erupted after the far left defeated the far right in an election shock. Ralph, what have the French actually voted for here?
Well, defeated is a tricky term. Now, you're correct when it comes to parliamentary seats that have been defeated. But if you look at the popular vote, the National Rally actually increased significantly. They got about 10 million, whereas Macron's quote-unquote centrist party, because he's no longer a centrist. If you ally with the Islamists and the communists, I'm sorry, you're not a centrist. But he got about 6 million, and the new Popular Front, which is this alliance of kind of traditional left-wingers like the socialists and the Greens, but also more radical elements like the communists, like Trotskyists, and open Hamas and Islamist sympathizers, they also got around 6 million. So kind of the National Rally won the popular vote, but due to the election system in France, there was kind of tactical alliance between the quote-unquote center and the radical left. So they got more seats. So the trend towards the right in Europe is continuing. I mean, we saw the same, by the way, in the United Kingdom. As many of your viewers are familiar with Nigel Farage, right? Nigel Farage got 14% of the popular vote, but it only translated into 5 seats, whereas the Lib Dems, for example, only got 12% of the vote, and they got 72 seats in parliament. So there is a mismatch at the moment. I mean, we always have to deal with the voting system there is. But there is a mismatch at the moment, I think, kind of where the popular movement is, where the populists are, and where the population is, and how it translates into actual political power. But this was not the breaking of the conservative, or whatever you want to call it, or the right-wing wave that is building in Europe. I would say this is more a calm before the storm, because the trend lines are still there.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because what does it say about the leadership of the West right now? Look at France, Keir Starmer in the UK, Joe Biden in the US, Justin Trudeau in Canada, for example. Where is the world heading to?
Well, I think what it does tell you, and I think this is one of the most important things we don't talk about enough, look at the people you just mentioned. Justin Trudeau, Keir Starmer, Joe Biden. In my opinion, if you look at their agendas, if you look with whom they surround themselves, from the radical, transgender agenda to net zero and kind of radical environmentalism, those are the radicals. Very often, the so-called right-wing populists, if you look at their program, they are not the radicals. I think the biggest brainwashing operation of the last 20 years was to tell the people that the opposition, the right-wing opposition, are the radicals, and those in government are the moderates. It's exactly the other way around. We actually have been governed for 20 years, and this is also true on the European Union level. We have been governed by radicals for the last 20 years, and it was the moderates who are in opposition. The main winning agenda of the so-called right-wing is their common sense approach. Wherever they stick to their common sense, they're winning. And Donald Trump is the best example for this. Look at the current Republican platform. Look at their programs. Look at the way he carried himself during the debate. Donald Trump is not a radical. I don't care that the New Republic had him as Hitler on their cover. This is all they have. Again, they do the same thing. It's moderate positions, but they say, you're Hitler anyways. And unfortunately, which is nobody's fault, but very often, this still works with the electorate, because most people don't have the time to engage with politics all the time like you and I. So if the mainstream media constantly tells you these guys are like Hitler, you assume, well, if the media says so, it's probably true. But I think we gradually see people realizing the media lies to you. And the best evidence we have for this is, just remember, we've been told for 4 years that Joe Biden is the fittest, smartest, most brilliant man ever to occupy the White House. We all know now that this was a lie, that it was visible for everyone who had eyes to see.